They left me at the gate. They took my money. They called it family only. That's how my son ripped 3 years of my life straight out of my chest. 3 years of scrimping, saving, and hoping, traded for a text that said I wasn't welcome. The words still glow in my mind like a neon scar. You've already done your part by paying. Mom, don't take it the wrong way. It's just simpler this way. Simpler. That was the knife twist. I sat in my kitchen, the house dark except for the under-cabinet lights humming a sickly yellow. My suitcase was packed. I'd even folded James's old Hawaiian shirt, the one with palm trees, so I could place it at the head of the table during our candle lighting on the beach. That was the dream. One last trip with the family, all of us barefoot in the sand, a circle of hands remembering him. Instead, I held my phone and read the message again. No call, no thank you, no lie to soften the blow, just eviction by text. The refrigerator hummed like a mocking laugh. My fingers were still sticky with tape from wrapping little gift bags, sunscreen, candy, keychains that said, "Grandma loves you." I had labeled each one by hand. For my grandkids. For the ones who would never know how close they came to hearing their grandfather's story by the fire. I wanted to scream. Instead, I laughed. The kind of laugh that cracks in the middle and tastes like metal. Marin, my daughter-in-law, always had that look, like I was an unwanted guest in my own family. She took holidays from me, dinners, even the little traditions I'd built over decades. Nathan, my son, followed along, shoulders heavy with her opinions. And now they'd stripped the last thing that was mine, a place at the table. But they made one mistake. They thought I was weak. They forgot whose name was on the account. That travel fund wasn't just numbers in a bank. It was me. Every skipped meal out, every tutoring session at midnight, every night I wore 2 pairs of socks because I turned the thermostat down to save $1. $21,763.84. I can still see the balance blinking on the screen when I logged in. The villa in Maui, the flights, the snorkeling lessons, the luau's, every credit card linked to that one account. Mine, sole holder, no co-signers, no shared access. And they had the gall to call me already done? I didn't freeze the account that night, not yet. I made tea instead. Peppermint, the one James used to drink when his stomach burned from late-night work. I sipped it slow, let the heat sit heavy in my chest. Then I opened a blank document and started typing names. Not theirs, not Nathan's, not Marin's. Other names. Women who had been shoved aside like me. Carol, whose son hadn't called in 5 years. Beverly, who cleaned up after everyone and still got left out of the family photo. Louise, who buried her husband last fall and ate Christmas dinner alone. Frances, who raised 3 grandkids and wasn't invited to their graduations. Forgotten women, the kind no one saves a seat for. I closed the file, then I opened the bank page again. My finger hovered over the freeze button. A little blue toggle. One click, and every single card in their pockets would turn to plastic trash. I didn't click it, not yet, because revenge has to breathe. It has to wait until the moment when silence tastes sweeter than explanation. The next morning, I packed my lavender candle back onto the shelf. I stared at the empty duffel bag by the door. Then I set my alarm for 8:15, the exact moment they'd be up the airport gate, boarding passes in hand, kids bouncing with excitement. That would be the moment the cards died. I let myself imagine the scene. Marin at the counter, plaster smile slipping. Nathan sweating, fumbling with the card, scanning it again and again. The beeps, the denial, the whispers, the panic spreading like wildfire. And me, sitting at my kitchen table in Ohio, sipping coffee from a chipped mug James once bought me at a gas station. Calm, waiting. They thought they erased me. They thought I'd stay silent. But I've got the law, the money, and a memory that doesn't forgive. Tomorrow, they'll learn the cost of calling me invisible. And as I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. Just 3 words. They found something. I didn't sleep that night. The clock ticked like a hammer, every second reminding me morning was coming, and with it, their flight. At 7:30 a.m., I was already at the kitchen table, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. The house was silent, except for the radiator coughing weakly against the cold. I stared at the banking app. The little blue toggle waited for me. Freeze account. By 8:12, I could almost see them. Marin fixing her lipstick in the airport bathroom. Nathan pretending he had it all under control. The kids clutching stuffed turtles from the souvenir shop. They thought paradise was waiting. They thought I was already erased. 8:15. I clicked. The screen blinked. All linked cards disabled. Manual authorization required. That was it. A single breath, and the whole trip collapsed. At first, silence. Then, at 8:27, my phone buzzed. "Mom, weird error at check-in. Can you check the travel account real quick?" I set the phone face down, sipped my coffee, listened to the fridge hum. Another message. "Mom, it keeps declining. They're saying funds unavailable. Just call me, please." I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I felt steady. Not happy, not sad, just steady. Then the calls started, one every 10 minutes, then every 5, then back to back. Voicemails piling up. "Mom, what did you do? The kids are scared. Please, this isn't funny." Funny? He thought this was about humor. He had no idea this was about respect. By 9:10, Marin's voice finally cut through on speaker. "Joe, whatever you think you're doing, stop it right now. You're ruining everything." Her tone was brittle glass, still trying to control me, still thinking she could. I whispered to the empty room, "Everything was ruined when you erased me." At 9:45, the resort emailed me directly. "Booking canceled due to account freeze. Refund will be processed." I read it twice, smiled once. By 10:05, Nathan's messages grew desperate. "If this is because of the text, I'm sorry. Can we talk?" Not sorry for excluding me, not sorry for treating me like a wallet with wrinkles. Sorry because the plane was leaving without a bed to land in. That's when I realized something sharper than anger. They never expected consequences. They thought I'd swallow the insult like every other time. They thought I'd be grateful for crumbs. Well, crumbs don't keep you alive. At 10:40, another message. "We're boarding. Please call, please." But I didn't. I pictured them scanning their tickets, holding useless cards, trying to bargain with gate agents. I pictured Marin's perfect smile cracking as the kids cried. I pictured Nathan sweating through his shirt, finally realizing the woman he called done was still holding every string. By noon, my phone stopped buzzing. Just one last email from the airline. Payment reversed. Seats canceled. I leaned back, stared at the ceiling, and let out a long breath. The silence was rich, heavy, full of power. Then I opened my notebook and wrote at the top of a fresh page, "The Forgotten Women." And I began a list, not of those who betrayed me, but of those who deserved better. Women who, like me, had been sidelined, silenced, stripped of a seat at the table. Because if I was going to spend my money, it wouldn't be on those who erased me. It would be on those who remembered what love costs. But just as the pen left the paper, my phone buzzed again. Not Nathan this time, not Marin, an unknown number. An unknown number, a single message. Meet me, I know what they hid. The text sat on my phone like a shadow I couldn't shake. Meet me, I know what they hid. At first, I thought it was a scam, some grifter smelling weakness in an old woman. But the timing? No, this wasn't random. This was tied to Nathan, to Marin, to their little scheme. I stared at the message until the letters blurred. My coffee had gone cold, my hands tight around the mug. Then another buzz, a location pin, downtown near the old courthouse, neutral ground. I almost deleted it. Almost. But my gut, that same gut that once told me James's cancer was back before the doctor said so, whispered, go. By afternoon, I was there. The sky hung low, gray and heavy, the kind that presses on your shoulders. I wore my beige coat, the one they mocked last Christmas as funeral fashion, fitting maybe because something was about to be buried for good. He was waiting on the courthouse steps, a man in his 50s, suit rumpled, eyes sharp. He looked like someone who'd lost more than he'd ever admit. He nodded when he saw me. Mrs. Mason? Depends who's asking. My voice was steel. He smiled thin, almost sad. Name's Porter. I used to handle accounts for your husband. The name hit me like ice water. Porter and Green, James's old financial firm. I remembered the letterhead, the stacks of forms, the endless signatures. What do you want? I asked flat. What I want doesn't matter, he said. What you need is the truth. Your son and his wife, they've been planning this for months, not just the trip, everything. I narrowed my eyes. Speak plain. He pulled a folder from his briefcase, worn at the edges, paper bulging inside. He flipped it open, slid one page toward me. A mortgage statement. My house. My name scratched out. Nathan's penciled in. They tried to transfer ownership, Porter said. Fraudulent paperwork. Sloppy, but dangerous. I flagged it before it processed. The courthouse clock struck 3. Each chime pounded in my chest. And there's more, he added. He pulled another page, a draft of a will. Not James's, not mine, a forged one. My signature, clumsy, shaky. They'd tried to make it look like I'd left everything to Nathan for the sake of the grandchildren. My throat burned, rage, acid sharp. They hadn't just erased me from a vacation, they wanted me erased from existence. I gripped the paper so hard it crumpled. Why are you showing me this? Because I owed James, Porter said softly. He once saved my job when the board wanted me gone. I couldn't let his widow be robbed blind. He leaned closer. But you need to move fast. They're desperate now. When the trip blew up, they started making calls. They're trying to cover tracks. The wind picked up, cold and biting. I stared at the courthouse doors, then back at him. What do you suggest? I asked. His eyes were steady. You've already cut their trip off. Good. Now you go further. Expose them. Make it so they can't touch a dime without your permission. Every penny tied back to you. Legally, publicly. I stood there, folder in hand, the weight of their betrayal heavier than the stone steps under my feet. For a moment, doubt flickered. Could I really go this far? Then I remembered Marin's smug smile, Nathan's silence, that text, "You've already done your part." I looked Porter dead in the eye. They wanted me gone. Instead, I'll be the ghost they can't shake. His lips curled. Good. Then I'll be in touch. Tomorrow morning. Bring every document you have. I walked away, folder pressed to my chest like a weapon. My knees ached, my breath came sharp in the cold air, but my back was straighter than it had been in years. When I got home, I laid the forged will on the table beside James's photo. His smile stared back at me, warm and mischievous. I whispered to him, "They thought they buried me, but I'm still breathing." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Nathan. Voicemail. His voice low, tight, panicked. "Mom, we need to talk. Please, don't do anything stupid." Too late. I didn't eat breakfast the next morning. Just poured myself a mug of black coffee, strong enough to scrape the lining off my throat, and laid the papers Porter gave me across the kitchen table. Forged signatures, mortgage transfers, draft wills with my name twisted into a shaky lie. The house smelled of old wood polish and last night's rain, but underneath I could almost smell the rot of betrayal. By 9 o'clock, I was at Porter's office, a plain brick building downtown, the kind nobody notices unless they need to. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with old files and dust. Porter greeted me with a nod, his tie crooked, his eyes sharp. "You brought your folder?" I slid it across the desk. Every statement, every bill, every receipt. I keep things. They thought I forget. I don't. He opened the folder, flipping through pages like a man searching for treasure. Bank statements, travel fund records, the supplemental will James had signed months before he died. Clause 17B, the one that stripped heirs of rights if they disrespected me. Harold's final insurance policy of love. Porter whistled low. They're done. With this, you could gut them in court. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. I leaned back, letting the chair creak. I don't want noise. I want permanence. No quick settlements, no apologies written by lawyers. I want them to feel the weight of what they tried to do. Porter smiled grim. Then we file. Fraud, forgery, attempted unlawful transfer of estate. You won't just stop them, Mrs. Mason. You'll bury them under paperwork so deep they'll be clawing for air. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, peace. Cold, sharp, and earned. While Porter made copies, I checked my phone. A dozen new voicemails from Nathan, some pleading, some angry, one just a heavy sigh before he hung up. And one from Marin, short, venom in her voice. "If you ruin this family, don't expect to see your grandkids again." Grandkids? As if she hadn't already poisoned them against me. As if her threats mattered after she'd cut me from the family trip like trimming fat from meat. At noon, Porter handed me a clean stack of files, neatly bound, notarized, sealed. "These are certified. The judge will see them within the week. But there's something else." He opened his drawer and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across. "Your husband left this with us, years ago. Said to deliver it if things ever turned ugly with the kids." My fingers shook as I tore it open. Inside was a letter, Harold's handwriting looping and steady. "Joe, if you're reading this, it means they've turned against you. I never wanted that, but I knew their hunger. This house, this company, the money, all of it started with you. If they forget that, remind them, loudly. Don't hide anymore. Don't protect their pride. Protect yourself. I trust you. I love you." I pressed the letter to my chest, breathing in the faint smell of old paper and ink. For a moment, I felt his hand on mine again, steady and warm. When I left Porter's office, the air outside felt different, lighter, like the ground itself knew I had weapons now. But at home, waiting on my porch, was Nathan. He stood there in a wrinkled shirt, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not my boy, not really, just a man scrambling to keep what he thought he owned. "Mom, we need to talk." His voice cracked. "Please, just hear me out." I didn't move. I kept the folder tight in my hand. "You had your chance to talk. You chose silence." He stepped forward, palms out. "It was Marin's idea. She thought you'd be happier not traveling. I didn't want to upset you. I swear, I didn't know she—" I cut him off with a laugh, sharp, bitter. Don't lie to me, Nathan. You sent the text. Your words, not hers. Yours. He swallowed hard, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Look, maybe I made a mistake, but we can fix this. Just don't drag the courts into it. The kids don't need that. The kids, always the shield, always the excuse. You erased me, I said, voice low and steady, and now you're afraid of the cost. His shoulders slumped. What do you want from me? Money? An apology? Just tell me what it takes to stop this. For a moment, I saw the boy he used to be. Freckles, scraped knees, a smile wide as summer. Then the image shattered, and all I saw was a man who thought I was a wallet with wrinkles. I don't want your money, I said, and your apology means nothing. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped past him, keys jingling in my hand. You'll hear from the court soon. Save your breath for the judge. I shut the door behind me, the slam echoing like thunder in the quiet house. On the kitchen table, Harold's letter lay open. Beside it, the forged will. The two stories of my life, the love that built me, and the betrayal that tried to erase me. I picked up both, folded them together, and whispered into the silence, "Game on." But just as I turned off the lights, headlights cut across my window. A car parked outside. Not Nathan's, not Marin's. Someone else had come. The car idled outside for too long, headlights flooding my living room, stretching my shadow tall across the wall like some kind of warning. I stood by the curtain, holding it open with 2 fingers. My chest was steady, but my hands itched. I don't scare easy anymore, but I don't ignore danger either. Finally, the engine cut. A door slammed. Footsteps crunched on gravel. A tall figure in a dark coat walked up my porch. Not Nathan, not Marin. He moved with more certainty. I opened the door before he knocked. "You're late," I said. The man raised his brows, surprised. "Mrs. Mason?" "Granny Joe," I corrected. "And you are?" He held out a card. The name read Detective Harris, Local Police, Fraud Division. "I wanted to speak privately," he said. His voice had that clipped rhythm of a man who'd spent years sorting lies from truth. "We received a tip about attempted document forgery. Your name was on the paperwork." I almost smiled. Porter had worked fast. "Come in." Inside, Harris laid out his own folder. More copies. My signature, butchered into a scrawl. My property title, scrubbed and rewritten. He tapped the papers. "Whoever tried this wasn't subtle. Your son's name shows up too many times. We think he and his wife planned to move assets before you noticed." They always thought I wouldn't notice. My voice was dry. Thought I was too old, too tired. The detective studied me. "You don't look tired, ma'am. You look ready." "Damn right." We talked for an hour. He asked questions. I gave answers. I didn't stutter, didn't soften. I laid out every text, every voicemail, every insult. When I was finished, Harris sat back, whistling low. "They built quite the case against themselves," he said. "All we need is your cooperation to press charges." I looked him dead in the eye. "Do it. Make it official. I want them squirming under more than family guilt. I want them answering to the law." He nodded, gathering the files. But before he left, he hesitated. "One thing, Mrs. Mason. When people like your son get desperate, they don't always play clean. You should be careful." I walked him to the door. "Detective, I've lived through worse than greedy children. I'll be careful." When his car finally pulled away, silence folded over the house again. Only this time, it wasn't peace. It was the heavy, electric kind of silence that comes before a storm. My phone buzzed. Nathan again. I didn't answer. but the voicemail transcribed on my screen made my stomach twist. "If you drag us into court, Mom, you won't just lose us. You'll lose everything. We'll make sure of it." Lose everything? The fool didn't realize I'd already lost them years ago. I turned off the lights and sat by the window, Harold's letter in one hand, the forged will in the other. They wanted war. Fine, I'd give them one, but I'd fight it my way. Quiet, precise, devastating. The next morning, the knock came early. Not the detective this time. A woman stood on my porch, coat buttoned to her chin, eyes wary. She looked about Marin's age, but harder, like life had filed her edges down. "You don't know me," she said softly, "but you should. I'm Marin's sister." I froze. My grip on the doorknob tightened. She leaned closer, voice low. "They're hiding more than forged papers. You deserve to know what." She stood there in the cold, Marin's sister, her breath clouding between us. I could see the nerves in her fingers, twisting the strap of her purse. She wasn't here to play hero. She was here because she was scared. "Talk," I said. Inside, she glanced around my living room like it was a crime scene. Her eyes landed on James's photo by the mantel, then on the stack of files Porter had left. She swallowed hard. "My name's Elaine," she said. "Marin doesn't know I'm here. If she did," she'd break off, shaking her head. "Look, I don't care about your fight, but I'm not going down with them. And if you don't act fast, they're going to drag you under." I crossed my arms. "You think I haven't already started acting?" Elaine gave a sharp laugh. "Freezing their trip? Cute. Filing court papers? Necessary. But you don't know the half of it." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "They've been draining your accounts for months. Not just the travel fund. Retirement, savings, anything with your name attached. Nathan forged online access. Marin handled the transfers. They're using it to cover debts you don't even know about." My stomach tightened. What debts? Her eyes darted to the window, as if afraid someone was listening. "Gambling, mostly. Nathan's. He's been playing high stakes for over a year. Lost nearly 60,000. Maring's been covering him with your money, patching holes while he digs deeper. The trip was their way of buying time, make you pay, keep you distracted. But now," she spread her hands, "now it's all unraveling." I gripped the edge of the table. "How do you know this?" "Because he came to me." Her laugh was bitter. "He begged me for a loan. I told him no, but I saw the papers, the forged logins, the withdrawals. I recognized your name, and I thought, Jesus, they're about to bury that old woman alive, and she doesn't even see it." Old woman. The words stung, but I let them slide. I wasn't here for pride. I was here for truth. I walked to the cabinet, pulled out my lockbox, and flipped it open. Retirement statements, bonds James had set up. The balances looked untouched on paper, but if Elaine was right, I shoved them across the table. "Show me." She scanned the statements quickly, nodding. "See this? These balances should be higher. Look at the date stamps. They've been skimming, small amounts spread out. You wouldn't notice unless you compare year over year." My jaw clenched so hard it ached. They hadn't just excluded me. They hadn't just mocked me. They'd been bleeding me dry, drop by drop, smiling while they held the knife. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked finally. Elaine's shoulders sagged. "Because when it blows up, Marin will throw me under the bus. She always does. I want distance. And maybe I don't want to see another woman crushed by her." Her voice cracked on that last word. Crushed. I wondered what scars Marin had left on her own blood. I poured 2 glasses of water, handed her one. "You did the right thing coming here. But understand, what you've given me isn't just warning. It's a weapon." Her eyes flickered, uneasy. What are you going to do?" I let the silence stretch, long enough for her to feel it. Then I said, "I'm going to make sure Nathan and Marin can't buy a pack of gum without my permission. I'm going to burn their credit, freeze their accounts, and let the law tear them apart piece by piece." Elaine stared at me like she'd just realized the kind of fire she'd lit. She set her glass down, stood quickly. "Then you'll need proof, solid proof. I can get it. Bank trails, account numbers, even screenshots Marin left on my computer by accident." "Bring them," I said. My voice was steady, every scrap. She nodded, pulling her coat tight. "I'll be back tomorrow." When the door shut behind her, the house felt heavier, as if her words had soaked into the walls. My son, my flesh, draining me like I was already dead. I sat at the table until the sky turned black, the silence broken only by the tick of the clock. Then, finally, my phone buzzed. A new voicemail. Nathan's voice, low and ragged. "Mom, if you do this, you'll regret it more than we will." I hit play again and again. His threat tasted like gasoline in my mouth, and I whispered into the dark, "Then let's see who lights the match first." They thought the night was theirs. They walked in wearing smug smiles, like guests at a victory party. But I had set the table for a funeral, theirs. The air in my kitchen smelled of lemon oil and fresh coffee. My best china gleamed under the low lamp. Napkins folded sharp as knives. The hydrangeas outside the window swayed in the dark like silent witnesses. I kept my hands steady as I placed each cup. No shaking, no hesitation. I had waited too long for this. Nathan cleared his throat first, trying to sound casual. "Mom, why all the formality? We could have talked at our place." I didn't answer. I slid a plate toward him like a dealer sliding a card. Marin, that snake, hovered with her phone in hand. She thought she'd record me breaking down, maybe get herself another piece of blackmail. She didn't know I had a recording of my own. Then came the knock at the door. Elaine, Porter, Detective Harris, and Megan Dale, my quiet army. They entered one by one, coats heavy with autumn rain, eyes sharp, hands full of folders that could cut deeper than any knife. We all sat. The clock ticked above us, steady, merciless. I poured coffee. The steam curled up like secrets. "You remember the text, don't you?" I asked Nathan. My voice was calm, but my eyes pinned him like a bug on a board. His jaw tightened. "Don't start." "Oh, I'll finish," I said. Porter pushed the forged will across the table. "This isn't her handwriting. It's sloppy work." Megan slid the clause forward, Harold's clause, the one he'd insisted on before his last breath. "Any heir who abuses or evicts the widow forfeits everything. Signed, notarized, ironclad." Elaine turned her laptop around. Bank withdrawals, dates, times, all traced back to Nathan and Marin. Detective Harris didn't waste words. He dropped a file so heavy the wood thudded. "Fraud. Conspiracy. We have enough to move forward." The color drained from Marin's face. Her phone trembled in her hand. This is insane." "No," I cut her off. "This is truth." And then I pressed play. The little recorder in my pocket filled the room with his voice. "This isn't your home anymore. Get out." Followed by the sound of a slap. No one moved. No one breathed. Nathan's own children sat frozen, their eyes wide, the world shifting under their feet. I leaned forward, hands folded tight. "You had your chance to be ashamed. You sold it for scraps. Now you'll pay." Nathan's chair screeched back. He stood, wild-eyed, and stormed for the door. Tires screamed in the distance, then the sharp crunch of metal on stone. Marin's scream pierced the night. We all rushed to the window. His car was sideways at the end of the drive, bumper crumpled, one headlight flickering like a dying firefly. He stumbled out, furious, shaken, shouting curses into the cold air. Detective Harris was already on his phone. Blue lights would arrive soon. Inside, silence stretched, heavy and absolute. My son had run straight into the wall of his own arrogance, and still he thought speed could save him. He had no idea he'd already lost. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. 2 words on the screen. Watch the news. The television in the living room blinked on as if summoned. A headline crawled across the bottom. Local heir accused of fraudulent will scheme, investigation underway. I felt the room tilt, not with fear, but with clarity. The reckoning had begun. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Small, certain. Because justice wasn't coming. It was already here, sitting at my table. The headline didn't lie. My son's name was already crawling across every screen in town. Local heir, fraud, forgery. The words landed heavier than any slap I'd ever felt. Marin clutched her phone, face pale, whispering curses under her breath. Who leaked this? Who told them? I sipped my coffee. Maybe the world finally noticed what I've been seeing for years. Nathan burst back through the door, jacket torn, hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. His voice cracked with rage. "You set me up, Mom. You ruined me." I stared at him, slow and steady. "No, Nathan, you ruined yourself. I just turned on the light." Detective Harris stepped between us, his badge glinting in the lamplight. "You'll want to sit down, Mr. Mason. There's a warrant on its way." Nathan's face twisted. He looked from Harris to Porter to Megan, then to me. He opened his mouth, but no words came, just the hollow gasp of a man watching the ground crumble beneath him. Elaine spoke then, her voice low but sharp. "Marin, you knew. You helped him. You both did. I told you it would catch up." Marin's eyes darted like a cornered animal. For once, no smile, no gloss, just fear. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of Harold's letter in my pocket. His last words to me, "If they try to erase you, Joe, don't be a ghost." I hadn't been. I'd been fire under their floorboards, and now the house was burning. The knock came at midnight. Officers at the door, papers in hand. Nathan tried to bluster, but it was useless. They cuffed him as the neighbors gathered outside, phones raised, faces hungry for spectacle. Marin's protests turned to sobs as they led him away. Inside, silence swallowed the room. Only the clock ticked, steady and merciless. I stood, smoothing my hands over the tablecloth. "I warned you," I said, to no one in particular. "You don't cut me out and expect to feast on what's mine." By morning, it was everywhere. Newspapers, radio, even the local morning talk show. The widow who fought back. Some called me ruthless. Others called me brave. I didn't care what name they gave it. For once, the story was mine. And the money, the house, every cent they thought was theirs, now sat safe, locked in my trust. I made good on my promise to myself. Not one dime for them, not one chair at my table. Instead, I funded something new, a home for women like me, women erased, overlooked, dismissed. A place where they'd be seen, fed, held. A place where no one would ever tell them, "You've already done your part." I walk the halls now, past walls painted warm yellow, the scent of lavender candles burning. Laughter fills the rooms. Not cruel laughter, not sharp or mocking. Real laughter, the kind that heals. On my desk, beside Harold's photo, sits Nathan's last email, unanswered. He begged for mercy, for money, for me to remember the boy he once was. But I only remember the man he chose to be. And I know mercy without change is just another word for weakness. So I let the silence be my answer. And at night, when the house is still, I strike a match, light Harold's candle, and whisper into the flame. They thought they buried me, but I was the roots, and roots don't die.